Matt Bernier, joined by DRF's national handicapper Mike Watchmaker, the second of three for this Saturday's Weekend Warrior. We stay at Belmont Park, race number 9. It's the Grade 3 Bold Ruler, 7/8 of a mile on the main track. Another full field, another very competitive field. Mike, you're going to go to the far outside with Divining Rod.
I like Divining Rod in this spot. I know that he's got a couple of tough horses to beat in here, and Seymour Dini and Stalwalking Dude. But Divining Rod, I thought, ran very well last time out, went second in the Kelso to Sharp Azteca, and that performance certainly was an improvement on his fourth in the Forego 2 starts back. I kind of like Divining Rod in the Forego. He steadied a little bit in the early stages, was hard held off a pace that really wasn't all that fast. And he still came up kind of empty in the stretch, but he ran a lot better most recently in the Kelso. You know, Sharp Azteca won the Kelso, and Sharp Azteca is a horse that is capable of doing some freakish things. He's really good when he's good, and he was good in the Kelso. But as good as Sharp Azteca is, he also got a tremendous pace on balls in the Kelso because he really walked the first quarter of a mile. I mean, that was a slow fraction for those kind of horses. So not only was Divining Rod up against a very good horse in Sharp Azteca, but he was up against one that had a tremendous tactical advantage in the race as well. But Divining Rod tried very hard in that race. He was hard held off the slow early fraction. He was 3 to 4 wide around the far turn. He chased Sharp Azteca in vain, but he was easily second best. He rebounded to one of his better speed figures, his Beyer speed figures. And I like the trip he's going to sit in this spot. He's cutting back to 7 furlongs, which I like. And he's got an outside post, and I think he's going to be able to let the race develop towards his inside. I mean, this is a horse with some positional speed. If it gets really hot up front, he can sit off it. Or if it isn't that hot up front, it's more deliberate, he can be a little bit more involved early. I just like the setup for Divining Rod. I like the improvement he showed last time out.
You brought up Sharp Azteca, a horse capable of doing some freakish things in the racetrack, a horse that freaked out in his most recent start was Seymour Dini for Linda Rice. Now, obviously, there are some things on here not to like about him, all these long layoffs between starts. But boy, that 113 Beyer, stating the obvious, if he runs that, he's going to win. Do you think he can handle the class hike? Because these are going to be the toughest horses he's ever faced.
They will be. But Seymour Dini just wowed everyone when he won the state there. That was in early July at Belmont, and it was on a wet racetrack. He's not going to catch a wet racetrack on Saturday. But I'm not too concerned about that particular aspect of it because he's run big on dry racetracks. He's won 3 straight, all by double-digit margins. He got that 113 in the state dinner. The thing of it is that I'm a little bit concerned about a horse who runs the best race of his career, and all of a sudden he disappears for how long has it been now? August, September, October, November, almost 4 months. That's a long time. Now, on the other hand, right after the state dinner, his connections announced that the Cigar Mile would be the likely target for this horse. And so this race is his prep, his stepping stone to the Cigar Mile. I'm sure they want to win this race, but it's really a means to an end, and he is coming off a long layoff, and he's going to catch a different kind of racetrack. And if Seymour Dini winning this race wouldn't surprise me in the least bit, but I'm just very reluctant to take him at a short price.
One of the coolest horses in training is Stalwalking Dude for David Jacobson. All he does is go out and run. Doesn't matter the distance, the class level, whatever it may be. 7/8 of a mile, obviously well within his range and his distance. The 104 Beyer in the Vosburg, he ran so well last time. He's got to be on the short list of contenders in here, no?
Well, we disagree a little bit here about Stalwalking Dude. Now, I know that Stalwalking Dude has a career mark of 4 wins from 14 career starts going 7 furlongs, but I really firmly believe that he's better at shorter distances than 7 furlongs. I think he's really at his best at 6 to 6.5. And I just think at 7, at this point in his career, at this kind of level against these kind of horses, he's just not as effective. And the other thing is as cool as Stalwalking Dude is, and as good as he ran in the Vosburg last time out, finishing a close third, getting a 104 Beyer figure, I was actually disappointed with his race in the Vosburg because the pace was contested. It really set up well for him. It looked like he was going to do some serious damage in upper stretch, and then he kind of really never improved. And the horses that were slugging it out in the early stages, Tacofel and El Deal, wound up finishing 1-2, and Stalwalking Dude just never was able to significantly gain on him. And I actually think that as good as his race in the Vosburg looks on paper, it wasn't all that good.
Couple of lightly raced horses in this spot that figure to offer a little bit of value if you're interested in them. Mr. Crow for Todd Pletcher, Beasley for Mark Henning. Beasley is getting the ultimate class test in this spot. Mr. Crow tried graded stakes most recently, did not pass the acid test. Either one of these intrigue you?
Not really. I mean, Beasley's a kind of an interesting horse, but he's going to have to improve significantly in terms of buyer figures. Whereas Mr. Crow has run fast enough to impact in this race, but it was against much lesser under different circumstances, favorable circumstances. And the circumstances for him isn't going to be as favorable. I mean, I expect him to get a trip very similar to the one that he got in the Vosburg. And in the Vosburg, he just rid up the white flag too readily for me in the stretch.
There are another number of other horses in here that have got back class, whether it's Tommy Macho or Green Grotto, Ready for Rye. You can go a million different ways. Is it just Divining Rod for you, or is there anybody else that you're interested in?
How about a crazy horse? And he's not going to be that crazy a price because he's a Todd Pletcher, Javier Castellano production. But I think Tommy Macho should be every bit of 15-1 in this race off of poor efforts in his last two starts. And if he is in that neighborhood, he's someone I would definitely mess around with a little bit because, I mean, I've been kind of chasing this horse ever since he finished third in the Carter because his third in the Carter was a terrific effort. That day, if you remember, that was Memorial Day, there was an intense speed bias on the Aqueduct main track, and Tommy Macho ran against that bias. And he came back off the Carter. He finished third in the Met Mile. He was beaten a long way, but the horses who finished in front of him were More Spirit and Sharp as Tecker. We know what kind of monsters they are. And then he finished third in the Belmont Sprint against Minette Biscuits, who was monstrous that day. So, like I said, his last two starts weren't good. That's going to help his price. But if the price is big enough on Tommy Macho, I'm definitely going to include him underneath in exotics.
Race number 9, Belmont Park, Saturday afternoon. The Grade 3 Bold Ruler, 7/8 of a mile on the main track. Mike's going to go to the far outside with Arnaud Delacour, Daniel Centeno. They're going to be aboard Divining Rod. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go to Southern California for the third and final race for this weekend's Weekend Warrior. It's the Twilight Derby for 3-year-old at Santa Anita.